Today we'll be discussing how AI is transforming the legal industry and even how it isn't, right? And I think this comes off of the cusp of 2018 being a big year for the rise of artificial intelligence in the legal space. Not to mention the fear of what the future may become with AI as we talk about its applicability to our roles, our industry, and the way that we do business. And what we're going to do is discuss how it's important to understand the benefits and the major research projects to these tedious tasks. And here we'll go on and discuss really more so of what you may have saw in reason for signing up, which was going to be kind of the agenda in tasks that we'll accomplish today. The presenters that you have here, without going into detail on each of their bios, are the document lifecycle evangelists here at Litera Microsystems. And if you've had the luxury of working with any one of us, myself, Matt James, and Chuck and Sherry, who will be presenting throughout, the focus for us is really about being an advocate to the industry, not only on what our technology offers, but understanding topics in thought leadership and really challenging the way that we think commonly, so that we can perform tasks that are relevant to first draft to final delivery in the way that we speak to creating work products. So this team here all has extensive experience in the industry. We've seen it change. And part of the reason that we feel today that this is the appropriate group for speaking to what we previously experienced in 2018, a lot of the hype around AI, and really what it means for us now that that's started to settle a bit, and what it means for the future. So the agenda is going to be about how AI impacts legal from all sides, as well as the myths, realities, and examples of the reality in regards to maybe the way that you've seen AI presented to you. In addition to that, we'll discuss how it differs from magic, right? This high umbrella idea of AI sometimes is not necessarily looked at from a back-end perspective. We want to talk about what lies ahead. I think this is a very important topic for not only what technology is coming in the AI space, but what that means for each of us individually, professionally, and from a company perspective. And then we have a variety of resources that we've pulled together to help populate this, and we want to make sure that you have access to those resources. So with that said, I'll hand it off to Chuck, and Chuck will give us the intro to what impacts legal from all sides in artificial intelligence.
Thanks, Matt. So when we talk about AI, it's really talking about a collection of technologies that impacts legal in all sorts of ways. So first, we're going to focus on a few key areas: law, ethics, business, and technology. Next slide, please. Technology is changing the practice of law. Lawyers have a responsibility to their clients, their firms, and themselves to understand at least the basics and demonstrate competence with the technological tools of their trade. At the very least, lawyers need to understand what artificial intelligence is, what it isn't, how it can help, and when it's irrelevant or even counterproductive. If a firm uses an artificial intelligence solution, whether for research or drafting or providing automated services to clients, then the firm's lawyers must know how and when to use the solution. In addition, a new field encompassing artificial intelligence law is evolving. As automated systems permeate more and more of our lives, autonomous cars or robotics in the workplace or automated medical diagnosis, rights, responsibilities, liabilities, and legislation are all evolving to deal with those new issues that arise. For instance, who's liable for a self-driven vehicle that crashes due to a faulty system? Or, who could have been monitoring the vehicle to ensure that it wouldn't crash? Next slide. AI has a massive impact on ethics. AI might be able to analyze and report on huge amounts of data quickly, but it's always the lawyer's duty to understand the results and the inputs to ensure that they're complete and correct and to use them appropriately. It's simply unethical, not to mention stupid, to copy and paste an automated answer and then blame the computer if the answer is wrong. Here's an example of distorted, unethical, harmful, and embarrassing results that should serve as a warning. Amazon recently came under fire because their AI hiring system was downgrading applicants for software development roles if they'd attended an all-women's college or participated in a women's team. That happened because that AI hiring system made recommendations using historical data. The tool learned its bias from historical hiring decisions when more men than women had been hired. And here's the ethical problem. Historical data was skewed, and the software was too crude to correct for that data bias. Now, lawyers don't need to be programmers, but if they rely on an automated decision-making tool, they need to know how it works. It's the attorney's responsibility to make sure that the data and rules an AI solution uses are relevant and comprehensive enough to generate an accurate and appropriate outcome. As a matter of fact, jurisdictions all over the world now require lawyers to maintain technical competency, including around AI. Next slide.
It's unlikely that artificial intelligence will ever put law firms or lawyers out of business. Automation simply can't replace the human judgment, empathy, intuition, imagination, all of those key contributors to good client relationships and expert legal service. In fact, as AI reduces, perhaps eliminates the drudgery, this truly is the best time to be a lawyer. But as AI solutions do change how lawyers provide legal services to their clients, they'll be able to deliver more quickly with greater quality and even provide clients with options for self-service, from automated online document wizards or through questions and responses issued by a chatbot. They can level the playing field among firms of all sizes. For example, online research services, giving small firms access to the very same commercial databases as used by large firms. The practice of law is no longer structured by lawyers for lawyers. Lawyers and law firms have to adapt, and AI increasingly drives that evolution. So let's feature AI's use in contract review, just as our impact example for technology. Lawyers no longer need to limit themselves to reviewing just 5 to 10% of a set of thousands for their current M&A deal. AI technology means they can analyze the entire set of contracts, not a random sample, in less time than it took to review the few. Not only does the lawyer deliver better, more thorough legal advice to the client, they're also home in time for dinner. Legal tech automation opens new business opportunities for the previously underserved customer, people who can't afford traditional bespoke legal advice, but can afford commodity off-the-shelf legal service, especially if it's delivered to their home via the internet. So law firms of every size have to think carefully about what services they can and should provide, what resources they need, whether they can afford automated solutions, and how they record time, bill their clients, how they market themselves. Legal startups increasingly leverage automation as a competitive advantage. And while the lawyer-client relationship is generally pretty sticky, if another lawyer can provide the same or better quality service for faster and for less money, a client would be unwise not to switch.
Right. So what are we talking about when we talk about AI? Next slide. Quite a few myths have grown up around the term AI. Science fiction trains us to think thinking machine when we hear AI. The reality is that no artificial intelligence actually thinks, and AI isn't going to replace lawyers anytime soon. Instead, AI is a technology that helps lawyers practice law better. Machines don't learn the way we do, freeform, by experience in the real world, forming creative, intelligent connections. Instead, they need to be spoon-fed information in a format they understand and can process, given the rules embedded in their code. Just because something is sold as intelligent doesn't mean that it is. There's a lot of artificial morons out there. We've all heard the phrase garbage in, garbage out, and buggy or biased rules can turn a good robot bad. AI really refers to a number of different technologies. A true thinking machine will pass the Turing test developed by Alan Turing in 1950, which tests a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior that's indistinguishable from a human. For example, fooling a human that they're actually talking to a machine. Google and IBM have come close in their labs, but it's not available commercially. Today, the key technologies behind what we're really talking about when we talk about AI are machine learning, logical inferencing, natural language processing, robotics, and speech and vision processing. Most AI systems incorporate a variety of technologies to make it easy for people to interact with them and deliver good results. For example, a litigation analysis expert system will use natural language processing to let users ask questions and then deliver increasingly accurate results because machine learning enables it to detect patterns that emerge the more times it reviews the ever-growing case law database. So here's some examples of what we're talking about. Sophisticated search and analysis engines like Kira and Raven help lawyers sift through massive document collections to detect patterns and problems. Document creation wizards embed expert knowledge in the questions they ask users and adjust the flow of questions they ask to deliver a custom document from pre-built components. Natural language processing allows lawyers to query Westlaw and other legal research platforms easily. We all interact with chatbots at one point or another, usually in help systems. LawDroid is a really cool platform that lets law firms design their own chatbots to answer clients' questions and deliver commodity services.
So at this point in time, what we'd like to do is break up the webinar into something that's a little bit more interactive. And I talk about the fact that we find ourselves in a position to be able to speak to AI and how it impacts the industry because we have relevant products and offerings that fall into that place. And to show somewhat of a demonstration here, what we're going to be able to do is kind of speak to one of those topics that falls under AI, which is called natural language processing, which is really all about understanding the language an individual is using. We'll often refer to it as preceding and following text that gives insight into what the actual meaning of that particular terminology or phrase is based on the context of its surrounding data. In fact, what we're finding in technology today where AI is absolutely being leveraged is the fact that this content is being surfaced to an individual so that they can make the most appropriate position, which I think hammers home the point that Chuck had made about AI not replacing lawyers, and Sherry saying how it's actually the best time to be a lawyer. So being able to leverage data to make the most appropriate decision rather than having the actual technology make that decision for you is often very valuable. So we'll see a portion of that here where through the ability to review content, we can surface priority of results and we can find additional data in regards to that. So we can identify the fact that maybe a number is out of order or that we're referring to a particular legal language that does not have the definition that should be associated with it. And what we'll find here is that information on the right-hand side can be presented so the individual can make the appropriate decision. And as I had spoken to, often we find this to be some of the high value work where the individual drafting is the individual who knows the intention and thus has the additional data to make the appropriate decision. But what about some of the more low value work in the sense that the document needs to be structured in a way and maybe that's not the expertise that the individual has. They're focused on substance and less about the actual outlining of a document. And what we'll find is in a more reactive state where we can have the best decision made. That's around content that is often not that may be a bit foreign to the individual who is drafting. So here's a scenario where I've clicked the button just to address my numbers, and the data here is informing me that there's going to be an area of my document that's no longer accurate because of the continuity that I'm forcing. And the individual can say, yes, I would be interested in seeing that. And what we'll find here is that when we're automating some of those lower value tasks to allow us to spend time on the higher value tasks, we'll also have the component here that is going to ensure that I don't have an extra level of risk. So here's the scenario where my actual comment, and I'll close this for real estate purposes here. Let me move this out. What we'll find is that the actual comment here is going to identify that you were speaking to an area of the document that was originally Article 2 and has now been promoted to Article 1. So the individual can feel confident that the technology will be able to index these paragraphs, which is one of the ways that we provide this advanced information, and allow you to recognize that it should be updated appropriately in areas of the document. As I jump down to another scenario really quickly, what I want to point out is that through typical workings of a document, individuals often find that you will take shortcuts where necessary to accomplish a task. So if I were to just come in here and showcase the shortcut of manually typing a medical plan that I want to include, we'll find that I have duplications in my numbering, and that's something that, again, is critical to the actual document itself, but maybe something that is a common occurrence for me based on my expertise being focused on the content. What we'll see here is that by generating a table of contents, the technology understands the dependencies that are required and can actually go in and say, okay, based on the amount of levels that are appropriate, which we've identified through indexing, we'll go ahead and generate a table of contents, and that table of contents is going to be relevant in regards to what you found. So knowing that there's a mistake here, we can make that correction and include it into the table of contents. What I want to do is jump back here and just pull, before I hand this back over to Chuck, I want to make one comment, which is that I do see some questions coming in, so please, by all means, if you have questions, send those across so that we can answer them at the end. The other piece that I wanted to speak here to were the two sides, right? So the left-hand side where it's a quick to value solution, that bottom bullet, that is dynamically creating results off of content on screen as opposed to concrete results or concrete rules, which is a different way of working and is more relevant to on-the-fly approaches, as well as on the right-hand side where we're identifying those patterns and the mistakes that are made to ultimately provide the end user with the best result. I'll hand it back to Chuck here for what's to come.
Oh, okay, thanks, Matt. Right, so there's no question that AI technologies will change the way lawyers deliver services and the ways our businesses reform themselves around those changes. What the next few years will bring begins with adoption. AI technologies in contract and litigation reviews, for example, will become as ubiquitous as the use of document comparison software. The battle of man versus machine is realigning itself to man plus machine. We're already seeing AI assisting in the detection and defense against cybersecurity threats. Chatbots and chatbot platforms like LawDroid that I mentioned earlier will bring access to legal services and legal advice to more people. If you're a LinkedIn user, you already realize the power of AI in recruiting. As organizations develop new roles, we'll see this extend to provide recommendations for skill development and learning content, like an online career advisor powered by the needs of professional communities.
As AI's utilization builds, Chuck mentioned those new roles, and here are just a few of the new roles that will be integrated throughout our practice. the AI architect who helps the business identify and clarify the use cases which benefit the business while remaining mindful to the ways of sustaining it. We'll see the emergence of AI ethicists who are needed to create guidelines and ensure they're upheld. Data scientists, a very crucial role to help manage big data and design algorithms to make the data meaningful. We'll need an AI product manager to liaise between teams, validate requirements, manage the processes of continuous improvement, and of course, AI technology software engineers to build scalable technologies with their deep understanding of how AI really works. We've covered a lot of ground today. In this section of your handout, which I hope you all have chosen off the GoToWebinar panel that's marked handouts, you can download the PDF. We've listed the resources that informed our session today, and those we feel you might find useful in your own AI learning journey. Our link list includes the indispensable Artificial Lawyer blog and the newly updated AI roundup of all of the content published or produced by ILTA. We've also listed freely available ebooks alongside some reference works which focus on informing our business leaders and our lawyers. Upcoming legal events bring AI content front and center. In a couple of weeks, Legal Week in New York features an entire track devoted to the emerging technologies of AI and blockchain, while the ALT conference in February features a half-day-long panel and design thinking discussion around this vital capability. If you're an information professional, check out the Practical AI course that was released 2 days ago by the Association of Information Professionals. And of course, in support of our lawyers, perhaps you'll find the Legal Tech Course Directory an excellent reference to inform them of available courses to build their AI technical competencies. And with that, Matt, I think we are ready for questions.
All right, thank you. We have a few questions in the chat box. First one is from Chris. Chris wants to know, what is the difference between AI and search?
And I'll just defer to Chuck or Sherry on that one. I think you guys are probably better suited.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that. Search is really just typing in a search term that you have to craft yourself into a search box, and then basically letting software find any content that includes those words and then dump it on your desktop and let you figure out, well, what's relevant, what's not. Artificial intelligence builds on search. It's going to take what you give it as something you want to find out, but it allows you to phrase the question the way you would normally speak, not in a way that a computer would understand necessarily without artificial intelligence. And then the artificial intelligence, whether it's based on machine learning or some other technology behind the scenes, is going to find all the content that matches the general search that you're looking for, and then fine tune it and hone it and deliver something, hopefully, that's more focused to what you're really asking based on its understanding of how you asked it using natural language processing.
All right, perfect, thank you. Next question on the list is from Jennifer. I know you touched on the topic of man and machine, but Jennifer wants to know if AI will cost her her job.
I can take that one. I think AI will cost you your job. I think only if what's happening is your firm isn't paying attention and investing and getting ready. I think if we as professionals in information or professionals in technology aren't paying attention and getting our own knowledge, building our knowledge bank, maybe ultimately, yes, the answer would be yes. It would cost you your job because we're not paying attention. I think as far as the reduction in the labor force, I think, these new roles are a really key component. I think it's going to invent your next job. That's the way I look at it. I also think that, yes, we're going to be able to do far more with either the same resources or in some cases maybe less resources, but I think it's going to make the ability for us to deliver more services the reality. I think our organizations will grow to meet new demands we've never been able to serve before.
Yeah, one of the challenges that I've faced over the years when I've been working with business users, particularly support staff, delivering or helping them understand a new automated system. A lot of people get it and they're perfectly happy to let the machine do the drudge work. But there's always going to be a few people who feel threatened. They think, right, what am I going to do with my day if I'm not doing all of this drudge work? And the answer is you're going to be freed to do something a little more interesting, a little more high value. It's going to enable you to do more with your time with less effort. Some people get that, some people never get it. But by and large, if you can find a way to message that, yes, this is this is a freeing technology, people will adopt it much more easily.
Awesome. And then we have 2 more questions, but they're kind of similar, so we'll just combine them. First, Paul wants to know, how do I know if AI solution is good or bad? And in combination, James is curious as to what are the best applications available for law firms at the moment?
Chuck and Sherry, I'll let you guys elaborate on this, but I think this is one that is a question that is difficult to answer because of the approach of speaking to the technology in the sense of AI, right? And AI itself is encompassing of many other technologies and capabilities that we had spoken to throughout this presentation. So my piece of advice there would be to find the best application that a law firm would take advantage of is really to understand the needs from your users and what we're talking about when we say AI. And I think Chuck and Sherry, you guys have actually done some work around almost buying cards to the extent of what you should be looking at when you're evaluating an AI solution, what your expectations should be, and really a methodical process to approaching that. Is that accurate?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we've been talking about essentially doing a session about as a buyer's guide for AI. What you should ask for and what you should look for, what you should be aware of, that sort of thing. Watch this space.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to try to give you a bit more of a direct answer without saying the applications, you know, what I would see that many firms are looking to do right now is to appease their lawyers by providing something that's AI, but in the sense of quick to value. So part of the reason that we had shown our analysis tool is that it's quick to value, it's plug and play. You put it on someone's machine and it will easily provide them with insight into their content so that they can better improve the quality or mitigate the risk of some inconsistencies throughout. So that's one way we're seeing that. We're also definitely seeing technology that is allowing firms to leverage common language that they use in their document management system, or that the individual partners of the firm are finding as the best and most standard language throughout. So I would say any of the products that are playing in that space are probably getting an elevated level of attention because it's taking advantage of content that's already there and maybe not as much of the setup around spoon feeding as Chuck had said, information into a technology that may take years before it is really taken advantage of.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Matt. It looks like we're a little bit over time, but that's okay because those questions were really good. Before we wrap things up, I just want to share with everyone that if you're interested in more of our upcoming webinars, you could go to litera.com/webinars. In about 2 weeks from now, from today, we'll have our first Spotlight On webinar for the year, and that will be hosted by our product team, and they will give insight into our top initiatives and themes inspired by customers for the year of 2019. So if you're interested in that, make sure to check out our website and sign up for that. All right. Thank you everyone for joining and have a good day. Bye.
Thank you.